Usually when we look at a concert program, we're thinking about entertainment. We're thinking, okay, are they playing the hits?
Right. Is there going to be a nice melody to hum on the drive home?
Exactly. But today we are looking at a stack of documents, bios, liner notes, and a director's letter for an event that feels less like a standard Sunday concert.
And more like a Sonic documentary.
That is a perfect way to frame it. We are diving into the materials for Symphonicity concert come Sunday, A Spiritual Salute. It's happening on February 15th, 2026. The program is divided into thematic sections. Part 1 is democracy and civic life.
And it opens with a piece by Kenneth Amos called Bell Tones Ring.
Now, when I see bell tones, I'm thinking of maybe like a handbell choir.
Me too. But the notes describe something much more significant.
Okay.
This isn't about the sound of a bell so much as it's about the function of a bell in early America. Think about the colonial era. Before the internet, before telegraphs, before sirens.
The bell was it?
The bell was the primary communication network. It was the push notification of the 1700s.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
The program notes highlight that bells were signals for gathering, for remembrance, for warning, and for celebration. It's as they were linked to truth and devotion and building a sacred union.
So by starting here, the concert grounds us in the town square. It's forcing the audience to gather just like those early Americans did.
Exactly. It establishes community before it explores the conflict. And the conflict comes up immediately in the next piece. Howard Hanson's Song of Democracy.
This one's a heavy hitter, composed in 1957.
And context is everything here. 1957, the height of the Cold War, Sputnik launched that year, American anxiety was through the roof.
Right.
Hanson, who was the director of the Eastman School of Music for 40 years, writes this piece using text from Walt Whitman.
Whitman is basically the poet laureate of American democracy, Leaves of Grass and all that.
He is. Hanson uses text from poems like Democracy and Thou Mother with Thy Equal Brood. But here's where the deep dive gets interesting. The notes mention this piece was famously performed at the inaugural concert for Richard Nixon in 1969.
1969. So we've jumped from the Cold War 50s to the absolute social turbulence of the late 60s.
And that's why this piece is so fascinating. You have music written in a time of external threat. The Cold War being performed in a time of internal fracture. The expert insight in the notes suggests that Hanson viewed democracy not as a finished product, but as a living promise.
A living promise. That implies it can be broken, or that it needs to be constantly fed.
Exactly. It's unfinished business. Which is the perfect segue to the next piece on the list, which deals directly with the price of that promise.
The Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yeah.
Now, everyone knows this song, but the program specifies this is the Peter Wilhousky arrangement. Why does the arranger matter so much here?
Because Wilhousky transforms it. The Battle Hymn has this gritty history. The notes remind us it was originally set to the tune of John Brown's Body in 1861.
John Brown the abolitionist.
Right, so it started as a marching song, a soldier's tune about a martyr. Julie Ward Howe added the Glory, Glory, Hallelujah lyrics later on. But Wilhousky's arrangement, it takes that marching energy and it slows it down, expands it.
It makes it bigger.
It turns it into what the notes call a monumental symphonic statement. It goes from a campfire song to a cathedral anthem. It fuses moral conviction with national purpose. A reminder that the democracy Hanson wrote about was, forged in the fire of the Civil War.
And if we're talking about forging democracy through fire, we have to talk about the centerpiece of this concert.
Oh, absolutely.
We're moving into the deep dive section of the program, Margaret Bonds.
This, to me, is the most significant inclusion in the entire program.
Margaret Bonds, for those who might not know, a pioneering African-American composer. So important. She was close friends with Langston Hughes,
a giant of the Harlem Renaissance.
And the piece Symphonicity is performing is called The Montgomery Variations.
Written in 1964.
Again, looking at the timeline, 1964 is the peak of the civil rights movement.
This is history as a direct response to the Montgomery bus boycott and dedicated it to Martin Luther King Jr.
And what I love about this is how she constructed it. It's a set of variations, so she takes one theme and changes it. And the theme she picked is the spiritual, I want Jesus to walk with me.
Which is such a profound choice. It's a plea for companionship in suffering. And she takes that one melody and weaves it through this narrative arc that documents the actual events.
Let's walk through that narrative, because the movement titles in the program are so descriptive. It starts with Decision.
Decision captures the moment the community decided to boycott. The notes describe it as firm, unyielding. It's the resolve.
Then we have prayer meeting,
which represents the spiritual grounding, that humble request for strength before the action begins.
And then march.
And this is important. The notes specify this is not a military march.
It's not soldiers.
No. It captures the spirit of walking to work. Remember, the boycott meant the black community in Montgomery refused to ride the segregated buses. They walked for miles.
For over a year.
Yeah. The music captures that dogged, rhythmic determination of feet on pavement.
Then we get Dawn and Dixie.
It's a landscape description. It sounds beautiful, like a social awakening.
But then the tone shifts violently. The next movement is One Sunday in the South.
This is the tragedy. The music contrasts the sweetness of children in Sunday school with the absolute horror of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing.
She actually composed the bombing.
She composed the emotional impact of it. That contrast between innocence and violence is just heartbreaking. And it leads right into Lament, which is grief and humiliation, but coping through faith.
And it ends with benediction.
A blessing. But the notes are very clear here.
Yeah.
It's a vision of peace, but it comes with a resolve for unfinished work.
There's that word again, unfinished. It connects bonds right back to Hanson's Song of Democracy.
And this is why the programming is so smart. Margaret Bonds is doing journalism through music. She is documenting the civil rights movement while it is happening, placing it at the very center of the American story.
That's powerful stuff. And honestly, after a heavy emotional journey like that, the program needs a shift, and we get one in the second half.
Yeah, celebration and new voices.
We jump from 1964 all the way to 2024 with the orchestral premiere of a piece by Omar Thomas called Come Sunday.
Right.
Now, Come Sunday is a nod to Duke Ellington, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
But the inspiration for this specific piece is the Hammond B3 organ.
The Hammond B3. I mean, that is the sound of the Black American church.
Absolutely. It's a cornerstone of worship.
Yeah.
But here's the challenge. An orchestra doesn't usually sound like a Hammond organ, right?
Not at all. An orchestra is violins and flutes and horns.
So Thomas uses the orchestra to emulate that specific sound. The slides, the vibrato, the percussive attack. He blends like back-like counterpoint with blues, jazz, R&B, and gospel.
It's a total fusion.
It is. And to anchor this fusion, they've brought in a featured musician who is a fusion artist herself.
Stephanie Sanders on tenor saxophone.
Yes.
Her bio is wild. She's a jazz saxophonist, but also a concert bassoonist.
It's such a rare combination.
Yeah.
The bassoon is this very traditional classical sound, and the tenor sax is the voice of jazz and rock and roll.
And she does both.
Both. She's the director of the jazz ensemble at Norfolk State University. And the bio says she's performed with legends like the OJs, George Duke, and Jill Scott.
So she's got serious credentials.
Exactly. So having her front and center on tenor saxophone is a statement. The notes mention this piece affirms that the concert hall now includes voices that were once excluded.
It's bringing the Saturday Night Jazz Club and the Sunday morning service right into the symphony hall.
It's breaking down the walls between high art and community music, which is reinforced by the final piece on the program.
Praise You by Wood, P-Tech, and Knight.
This has got to be the encore.
It sounds like it.
It's the high energy closer.
Yeah.
The focus here is on rhythmic vitality. It bridges sacred worship and concert performance and just emphasizes joy.
So we've gone from the solemn ringing of bells through the struggle of the civil rights movement to this explosion of joy.
It's a complete emotional arc.
So let's zoom out. We've looked at the leaders, the history, the music. We have this concert on February 15th, 2026. Why does this specific lineup matter so much?
I think it matters because of that through line we talked about at the beginning. If you look at the timeline we just constructed,
Right.
We started with colonial bell signals for the community. We moved through the anxiety of the Cold War with Hanson. We walked through the fire of the civil rights movement with Bonds.
And we ended with the inclusive celebration of Omar Thomas.
It's a sonic timeline of the American experiment. It shows that American history isn't just dates and elections. It's about how people felt, how they prayed, how they protested.
And how they celebrated.
Exactly.
Maestro Booth had a quote in his letter that really stuck with me. He said, "To hear our voices, we must proclaim them passionately."
That's the key.
Yeah.
In the context of the 250th anniversary, this concert isn't just entertainment. It's an act of community building. It's saying, here are the voices that made us.
It really makes you appreciate the thought that goes into programming. I mean, it would be so easy to just play Stars and Stripes forever and call it a day.
But that wouldn't be the whole story, would it? Including Margaret Bonds and Omar Thomas makes the story complete. It acknowledges the struggle alongside the victory.
Which brings us to the end of this deep dive. And we always like to leave you with something to mull over.
We do. And thinking about Margaret Bonds documenting 1964 and Howard Hanson documenting 1957, it just raises a really interesting question.
Okay.
If music is a way to document history.
Yeah.
If you were commissioned to write a symphony today, right now, in 2026, to represent this specific American moment, what would it sound like?
That is a big question. Would it be dissonant?
Harmonious.
Would it be fast-paced, digital, full of samples?
Or maybe a bit of everything all at once?
Probably a bit of everything.
Just like the country itself. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
This podcast was produced by Symphonicity, the Symphony Orchestra of Virginia Beach, Virginia. To get tickets or to learn more about their concerts and events, visit symphonicity.org.